Welcome back to Studio 4. Jason Boyette joining us today. We're not talking about the latest edition of Brick and Elm, which is something that we do weekly. I wanted to bring Jason in to really dive into the Panhandle-Plains Historical Museum. You're on that board, on
Yes.
the society board, just to really kind of dive in and know a little bit more about what you guys are doing. So I think set the table for everybody and give us a bit of a recap of what's going on.
Okay, so recap. First thing you need to know is that West Texas A&M owns the building, the facility of the museum. The Panhandle-Plains Historical Society owns the collection. We have a relationship that dates back to 1932. We found out, the closure was in March of last year because of fire code safety violations.
And you guys were blindsided by that.
We found out the same time you found out. We were not aware of that until we'd been closed. And then in November, we learned from the WT administration that the Texas A&M system no longer wanted to fund the ongoing maintenance of the museum facility. And then in December, Dr. Windler asked us to start preparing a plan to vacate the building. So that seemed really, really bad. Lots of emotion in the community about that.
Because this isn't a standard eviction or a, hey, move on down the road, because of the amount of, when we go to the museum, we only see a small portion of what's there.
Yes.
How many items are we talking about?
More than 2 million. Enough that we don't have an extremely accurate count. The collection includes 22-foot diameter windmills, and it includes boxes that have hundreds of projectile points, arrowheads in it. So there are more than 2 million artifacts. Now, that was kind of the bad news as of December. There's a lot of community outcry.
Right.
People obviously felt very emotional about that. It's part of their childhood. Since then, we've had some really productive conversations with the administration. Dr. Windler has expressed a willingness for the museum to stay on campus if he can make it happen. He has offered to find us a storage solution that is separate from the museum building, where we can take some of that 2 million plus, collection of artifacts and put it in a safer facility. And so, we have some progress that feels more optimistic now than we felt in December.
I was going to say, and I think that's what most people who are putting the Save the Museum signs in their yard, just wanting some kind of hope, because we all grew up going there.
Yes, yeah.
And it's a big part, history's a big part, and I think that museum is as good as any museum in the state of Texas.
It is, and it hurts that it's closed. I feel the same sadness and disappointment and anger that everybody else, feels. But I'm on the inside, and that I have to be part of this team finding a solution to it, and that is so complex. It is one of the most complicated scenarios I've been in my entire life.
And in terms of, to give somebody the perspective, it's not like if you've got extra stuff at your house and you go rent a storage facility behind Walmart. That's not what we're talking about here, because these things are so delicate in how we handle them. Finding a place to store that seems like a titanic project in itself.
And let me tell you about it. So right now, the museum staff is deinstalling some of the exhibits, which means they are taking the artifacts out of the displays, they are packing them up, and they're moving them to the museum's storage. And so everything has to be cared for very carefully. It has to be analyzed to make sure that, it's free from dust, that there are no cracks, that everything's fine. It's tagged, it's recorded, it's put in a special bag or box. And then we have to know exactly where it went so that when it's time to show it again, we have not lost it. Everything has to follow this chain of custody because of the accreditation of the museum, so that we can reopen it again. And so it is just such a time-intensive process when you think of 2 million artifacts.
And it seems to me like it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride from the drop that happened in November, where is it going to stay in Canyon? Is it not staying in Canyon?
It has, for us, for sure, on the board. But I think for the community as well. The museum's Facebook account has posted some photos of the deinstallation of exhibits. And people are upset to see items that they have seen in the museum being packed up. But the reality is this has to happen. So if we build a new museum building on the campus in WT and we have to move to it, we have to pack up. Okay. If we move it to offsite storage, we have to pack up. If we make changes to correct the fire code issues, we still have to pack up the collection in order to protect it. You can't just start knocking down walls, next to these priceless artifacts. Yeah. And so regardless of what solution we get, this is the step that we have to make right now. And it's a painful step, but it is how we care for the collection.
Is it a fair question right now for me to ask you what's on the table in terms of a solution?
Everything is on the table. Obviously, we would like to stay at WT in some capacity because moving 2 million things, even moving it 15 miles north to Amarillo, is a many, many years long process. So if we don't have to make that move, we would love not to make that move. Okay. But, the other reality is that we've been freed up to not just think of the museum as exactly what we have right now, and we're going to try to recreate that 200,000 square feet in another part of campus. Yeah. Like, we are free to kind of figure out what is best for this museum. And it could look like any number of things. It could look like a multi-site sort of approach. Everything is on the table because what we want to happen is for us to reopen. What we want to happen is for us to care for the collection and make it accessible to as many people as possible. And that doesn't necessarily have to look exactly like what we have right now. Because if we started over, I don't think we would build a 200,000-foot facility with all these winding staircases and stuff like we have now. That's just how it happened over, 80 years. Yeah.
Short term, what does it look like?
Packing up and caring for the collection. Yeah, I mean, it will not be a process that takes weeks or months or even a year. It will be longer than that. And so our museum professionals are currently, doing their best to prepare for whatever might happen in the future. So right now we're waiting to hear. Dr. Windler has some ideas. He's trying to find some funding. We're waiting to see what happens there. And at the same time, we're preparing for any eventuality. If he can't find the funding, we have to be ready to come at it from a different angle. And so we as a society are not just going to sit and wait and let somebody else control our fate. If he can do that, that is fantastic. We would love that. That's what we want. If not, we've got to be prepared because we don't want to just be sitting around waiting for somebody to throw a pot of money at us.
And it could be a collective. It could be that. It could be money from the state. It could be a number of different things.
Many different things. Private donors, state money, funding from WT. And so the museum, 3 or 5 years from now, I think will look very different from what people remember. But I think it will be better. And that's what makes us hopeful.
I think the resounding message that we've seen on social media and in person of just talking to people is the one thing that we know for sure is people want this thing to stay right here.
That's right.
And there is, again, a love for our history. And so thank you to the Society. I know how much it has taken from you all to try to find a way forward.
I feel like this is my new job now, is museum stuff. We're all volunteers, and we all care as much as everybody else cares. And so this has been really difficult, but I think it's meaningful, and I think it's important.
What is the best way for people to stay up to date with all the things that the Society is doing?
So the museum's Facebook page and Instagram page, those accounts are pretty robust right now. They're sharing some of the behind-the-scenes photos of what's happening. So that's probably the best way. If you want to support the museum, become a member of the Society, because that is how the Society raises funds. Okay. That shows that you love the museum. It shows that you care about this history. We would love to grow the Society.
How do we do that?
You can do that at Panhandle-Plains.org website. Okay.
Go over there and check that out. There is a call to action right there, and then we will stay tuned because there are updates coming out all the time. It's a story that, again, has an outpouring of care and attention to, so we'll definitely do that. Jason, thank you. I've been asking Jason to talk about this for a while, and so I'm glad that we finally got some time to carve out.
Yeah, there's too much uncertainty until now. Now things are becoming a little clearer, so we're trying to talk more about it.
All right. Well, Jason, we appreciate it. Thank you, and we'll be back after this.